Defense, there's no better way than for the foundation to be with a guy like Jordan Davis up front, an absolute boulder in the middle of this defense for Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning. I believe the best interior defensive lineman in the SEC, possibly best interior defensive lineman in the country, to go along with maybe the best defensive line across the board in the country. There's a lot to replace on the back end. There are a lot of concerns at the second and third level of this defense. There are none up front with Jordan Davis.
They've been great against the run each of the last 2 years for a defensive-minded head coach in Kirby Smart. 52 wins over 5 seasons as Georgia's head man, SEC title, and played for a national championship. That's the goal. To bring a trophy back to Athens this season. They may just have the quarterback to do it. Kirby was excited, may get some rain today. Very small chance, but it's 70 and cloudy in the Classic City. We're underway. Special teams work is going to be rather limited, but they're going to see what guys can do. The ball is coming out and all the way past the 30. And so JT Daniels will wear the white jersey at quarterback to lead the red team, the junior from Irvine, California. Undefeated last year as Georgia's starting quarterback, a much different team with him. They scored 37 points a game and had nearly 500 total yards of offense each of the 4 that he started. Georgia will be limited when it comes to the wide receiving corps today. We'll get into that just a little bit, but they have plenty of tight ends. James Cook out of the backfield on the very first play of the game, and he's able to pick up 5. Jordan, we had a great visit with JT Daniels yesterday, and I think as folks get to know him a little bit better, they will learn that he is as well prepared maybe than any quarterback in college football.
Yeah, I mean, the physical talent jumps off the screen, no doubt. You'll see plenty of it today. But what you really don't know about JT Daniels in the limited time we saw him last year was how incredibly cerebral he is. Incredibly high football IQ, and we hope to see a little bit of that today.
Here's Kearis Jackson able to pick up a first down for the red team. This was the difference both with and without JT Daniels from an offensive production standpoint. I promise. There was a
it was a big jump.
It was a big jump. He was one of 3 different starters over the course of the season. Stetson Bennett will be his backup in the game today. Stetson's had limited reps this spring as they get other guys ready to go. Here's Kearis Jackson again this time for just a couple. The numbers and the differential just eye-popping.
Yeah, look at the passing yards a game, over 100 more with JT Daniels, and that's what they needed. They needed to complement their ability to play good defense and run the football, and that's what JT Daniels was able to do. And think about it, Todd Monken had 4 different quarterbacks at one point in the beginning of the season. He was making an offense for each one of them. Now he gets to focus this spring and this offseason on just building around JT's strengths.
They're going to run it again. It's Zamir White, junior from Laurinburg, North Carolina, getting an opportunity. We showed you some of the talent they have at running back. We'll see a bunch of guys back there today. White, Cook, McIntosh, and Edwards all on the red team.
One thing I want you to take notice of is start to notice some of these stacks, bunches, the formations. They're coming out right here in a 3-by-1 formation, which is what they love to do when backside they have a guy like George Pickens. But at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see A.D. Mitchell right now, a true freshman. He's the guy that they think can fill that role.
He is a bit of an unknown coming into the season as Cook picks up a couple over the left side.
And that's one thing Todd Monken said. He said, look, we haven't really had an X since we've been here. They all seem to keep getting hurt, and that X likes to be backside because when that X is backside, it forces the defense to dictate their coverage early and allows an offensive coordinator to dial up good plays. What's the answer when you don't have a guy or a question mark at that point? Bunch sets, top of your screen right now. Tight ends and receivers in bunch sets to create conflict with the defense.
Zamir White over the left side gets bottled up. That was a 4th and 2 play. We'll see what Kirby wants to do from a scrimmage standpoint, and we'll kind of all figure it out together on where they take liberties within the rules, but at least at the outset, this will be the #1 offense against the #1 defense, red versus black, and then we'll see the #2 offense versus the #2 D once the black team gets the ball.
And sometimes that chain gang will look over at Kirby and say, you want an extra yard there? You want to keep this drive going? That's a spring game, right? I mean, the head coach gets to dictate how things go.
Pocket holds for Daniels. He finds Zamir White, and White makes the first couple miss, and he rips off a nice catch and run.
First down yardage for the red.
15th practice of the spring season. Interesting to see the competition at running back and the versatility.
Yeah, and this was a shot play, going play action, trying to hit something downfield. JT does a great job there. Coverage is over the top. Dump it down to one of the many guys out of the backfield that can make plays. Zamir White, one of them. James Cook and Kendall Milton as well. Very dangerous out of the backfield. And again, one of these condensed formations that I think we're going to see a lot more of this next year with Todd Monken.
Fresh set of downs. Daniels, quick hitter to the outside. That's Jalen Johnson, junior from Duluth, Georgia, out of Peachtree Ridge. George Pickens suffered the torn ACL a few weeks ago, so the leading returning receiver is out. They got a bunch of guys that they want to run through, and others who saw action right before the scrimmage in the 7-on-7 that would be ready to go if this were a typical game, that won't be risking injury today. Quay Walker brought pressure up the middle, couldn't quite get to James Cook. Jordan, what are they missing without Pickens?
He's one of the best receivers in the SEC. He's a big body. You saw what he was able to do downfield, but even more so, JT loves those back shoulder throws. In the SEC, you don't get a ton of separation. To have a big physical body receiver to make those plays for your quarterback, I know that was my best friend. So you're missing a huge playmaker, but when Jermaine Burton gets back and healthy, and Kyrus Jackson as well, those are guys that can make big plays, and especially Burton. Burton's going to be a superstar next year. So they got a couple guys ready to step in place of Pickens.
We'll talk about the tight ends in the broadcast today. They got John Fitzpatrick out there right now. Daniels pressured, got a hand on him, and they will whistle it dead. Cole, what are you seeing from that big defensive line and those great linebackers here early on?
Well, obviously, you're going to have edge defenders in this defense. I thought they had the best group of edge defenders in college football a season ago, but that's just kind of a little run stunt there that's able to get a twist, and you get 95 back off the left side of the offensive line and able to get a little bit of pressure there. I have been impressed so far with Xavier Trust at left tackle. That's a position that we've heard a lot about the battles this spring. Had a big block pulling on the run play just a second ago. He's been solid in protection so far, and obviously one of the positions I'm watching for this Georgia O-line.
I've got Warren McClendon over on the right side, Trust on the left side. Bookend that offensive line, and Daniels just a hair behind his intended receiver, Demetrius Robertson, on his 6-year college football.
You know, Cole mentioned before the game started Jordan Davis and the weight issue, right? I mean, such a dynamic, such a big body up front for that defensive line. But Dan Lanning, defensive coordinator, mentioned we need him to be lighter. Offenses nowadays are RPO-based. They're horizontal passing game. They're up-tempo. He's got to lose a little weight to be able to play drive in and drive out for 4 quarters.
Yeah, Kirby hadn't been shy about that either. They sent another blitz. Daniels stands tall. There's that back shoulder. And incomplete, trying to find Donnie Mitchell, newcomer from Texas by way of Nashville.
So I mentioned the back shoulder throw and George Pickens, right? This is a great throw by JT Daniels, and Mitchell just adjusts a little too late. This throw for a quarterback and a receiver is completely a feel. There's no one way it works every single time, so you got to create rapport with your receiver. A.D. Mitchell is a true freshman. That rapport is going to come, but that's a ball that JT throws really well.
Here's Jake Camarda on to attempt a long field goal, 42-yard attempt. And he pulled it left. No good from 42. Opening drive, JT Daniels with 5 of 7 for 39 yards. We'll see the other side get a crack at it. Carson Beck will lead the black team after this. 9 of the 10 quarterback starts for the Dogs last year.
He just looks like a
belonged to those two guys, Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels. Take a look at the timeline for Daniels. He was one of the best players of the year, Gatorade National Player of the Year at Mater Dei. Has a history of great quarterbacks. and became the second true freshman in USC history to start their season opener after graduating a year early. 2019 tore his ACL, so he knows what George Pickens is going through, and it took him a while to get cleared and then to get on the field. But finally did so for Georgia and won his first 4 starts. So they finally have a spring ball to go through. And with that, Carson Beck has been getting a lot of the second team reps. Here's Kendall Milton on first down for the black team. Jordan, what do you expect about Carson Beck?
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's one of the things Kirby said he was most interested in this G-Day is finding his number 2 quarterback. And Carson Beck has been taking a lion's share of all the number 2 reps. He's a big, strong kid. And when he puts it all together, he's the most natural thrower on this roster. And he looks like an NFL guy when he really puts it all together. But he's young, still needs the reps. He's the leader in the clubhouse to take that number 2 spot. But this game-type environment, that's how Kirby wants to see these guys respond and how they do respond.
Dejon Edwards gets an opportunity. Beck, 2018 USA Today Florida Offensive Player of the Year, coming out of Mandarin High School in Jacksonville, Florida. Helped lead his high school to their first state championship in school history. Red team had a solid drive in their first possession, but a missed 42-yard field goal kept them off the board. Beck has it batted up and intercepted. Pardon me, McConkey's on the black team. That'll go as a reception. Hey, it's a spring game for us.
I thought it was too.
Great hustle by Lad McConkey.
Looks like Beck was trying to hit a comeback to the sideline. You notice he's got a little bit of a 3-quarter release. Most quarterbacks do nowadays. They're not teaching you to go way up over the top as they did maybe 10 or 15 years ago. So that ball gets batted down. Good job off the edge.
Back to the running game. Cole, you look at the stable of running backs for Georgia. It's really an embarrassment of riches. And you would imagine that there is still stiff competition, not only to close spring ball, but in this game today. Hold on a second. We don't have your mic open, Cole. We'll get
seen a little bit of Kendall.
Cole, can you restart that, please?
Obviously, we saw Zamir White a little bit earlier. We say day one. Edwards just now. We're going to see a little bit of James Cook, who I think is going to be the move guy in this offense. And you're right, a lot of depth, but a lot of depth at this position too.
Up the sideline, and he takes it inside the 10. 6'7", 285.
This is a great job by Carson Beck. Georgia actually brings pressure from the field there, a blitz, and Beck calmly knows it's picked up, finds his one-on-one matchup down the field, and that is a huge pickup and a veteran play there by the redshirt freshman Carson Beck at quarterback. And that's a big man right there, Tom. That is a target any quarterback would love. Darnell Washington at 6'7", 280.
Coming in out of Desert Pines High School, rated the #1 athlete in the nation. Here's Kendall Milton, and black team is on the board thanks to the long reception by Washington that went for 51 yards.
Look, I know Zamir White, James Cook, those guys get a lot of the conversation, but towards the end of the year, Kendall Milton, I thought he was the best running back on roster. I think he's going to be something special this year. He may not be the starter Week 1 against Clemson, but I believe at some point he's going to be the go-to running back for Georgia. He's big, he's physical, and I just see there, that one was pretty easy though.
Here's Jack Podlesny. And Black's on the board early. Oh, Cole loves it. Roderick Jones clearing the way for Milton. 7-0 Black with the lead. Cole, what'd you think about the blocking on that O-line on the touchdown run? I'll let you talk us through it.
Well, you guys mentioned the puller, obviously, that you like to see there coming around and kicking the kick out. But what I really liked was Darnell Washington, the guy that we talked about a lot on that drive, with the pin to help the pull and then clear the space to be able to get into the end zone. One thing that we saw from Washington on that drive, the different ways that Todd Monken's going to be able to line him up. He was lined up out wide by himself. He was in line as a normal tight end, hand in the dirt next to the tackle. He was lined up as an H-back. He was lined up in the slot. I mean, this young man that they're going to be able to use a lot of different ways. And at 6'7", 280, he's a matchup nightmare.
Those special teams work for Georgia. Kearis Jackson with a solid return. Kirby told us he wanted the guys to be able to read the blocks and use the blocks even though they wouldn't be taken down in those situations. And got a second look at JT Daniels. We had a long discussion with JT yesterday about leadership and about preparation, and both of his answers were incredibly impressive. I dare say enlightening to talk about the process that he goes through on a week-by-week and day-by-day basis to get ready for a game. He has had the same film schedule since he was a junior in high school. That is a 6-day-a-week schedule when it comes to breaking down opposition film. Jordan, when you heard that, was that something that you're used to hearing from guys this age?
No, not that detailed. There's few guys in college that have a detailed and routine-like approach to the game. Now, most of the guys kind of take their cues from, the practice and the coaches and that schedule. He has his own schedule separate from what they do practice-wise and what he's watching film. I think a lot of that credit goes to Jordan Palmer, a guy that he has been training with since he was a junior in high school, but literally every day of the week corresponds with a different type of film study as pertains to their opponent that week.
Back foot almost intercepted. Looked like it was incomplete as Amir Speed tried to make a play on it. The film work doesn't stop with the opposition. He is a film junkie when it comes to watching NFL quarterbacks, the guys that you would imagine, but he also went back a few years, and this got your eyebrows up. He said, I think Alex Smith's 2017 season might be one of the most underrated seasons ever, and he goes through the same film process and library that they have available to them. He gets the NFL film and he watches breakdowns on all those great quarterbacks.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons that he is going to be successful, because he studies himself and how he can improve in the little things, and that's why he watches the NFL guys. And I love that he said Alex Smith, because it's easy to say Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady, but you go, why Alex Smith? Well, he's a guy that wasn't the most physically gifted, but he made it work with his footwork, his consistency, his balance. And so you're going to watch a lot, or I'm going to focus a lot on JT's feet as he does a really good job right here trying to avoid pressure, something that he struggled with last year because that knee wasn't quite where it needed to be. But the film study about the NFL guys is all about making himself more efficient. Alex Smith, very balanced in his throw. How do I get more accurate and consistent like that? Love that he has that approach to the game.
McConkey back to receive this punt, takes it at the 10. And a whistle and dead after about a 5-yard return. Credit Nolan Smith with a sack on the third down play.
Guys, he was firing off different players from different years, and I've never heard of a college player be able to go back and say, you know what, I'm going to go 3-4 years back, watch this individual guy. 2 years ago, watch this individual guy. I was beyond impressed. I thought it was one of the most impressive player meetings that we've had as a crew, sitting down with college football players, be it whatever position it was, to hear the detail, to hear the organization, and ask Coach Monken about it before the game. He said, I hadn't had a guy like him. He said, I will say this. There are times when he can get a little bit too detailed, and we got to kind of reel him back in, he said, but it's absolutely going to allow him to flourish in this offense.
We'll talk more about it as we head to the second quarter. JT Daniels has started this game 5 of 8. But it's the first team defense which has set up the Black offense for an early lead, 7-0 Black after 1. Well, the Head Dogs got history in the Classic City, no doubt about that. Look at old number 16. Wonder if he could have played with a visor on underneath the helmet back in the day. And he's got one of his old teammates with him on the staff now in Will Muschamp. That is not Will. Will probably not in the clipboard holding business, but Kirby said, man, it's great having him around. He is going to be sensational for us on the recruiting side because of all of his relationships. He's already been incredibly helpful from a management perspective and kind of setting everything from practice times and coaches' schedules as Carson Beck completes first pass of this drive. What do you think Kirby wants to see out of Carson Beck and then Brock Vandegrift with this unit?
Well, it's decision-making, right? On the big throw earlier that we saw from Carson Beck to Darnell Washington, he identified the blitz, and he also didn't panic because he knew the protection was there to pick it up. He went against coverage rotation to find his one-on-one matchup and had a big play downfield. That's exactly what Kirby wants to see in a game-like environment, right? You can do that in practice, and sometimes you know the plays that are coming in practice, but in a game-like environment, you got to be able to see that because that's what he's going to need to be able to do if he's called upon next year at any point.
Cole, we already saw a big play for Darnell Washington. You are on the field. You got to look at this guy. What do you think about his build?
1st and 10 at the 31.
Nice kick-out block right there, but I can't believe he weighs 280 pounds. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Kirby told us in our meetings yesterday, yeah, he's 280. And I was thinking, I'm sorry, do what? I mean, look at his waist. It looks like it's a 32-inch waist. I mean, the guy that's as good-looking of a 280 as I've ever seen in my life.
Jordan, you talked about the bunch formations and missing some ex-receivers. That one batted down at the line. Bill Norton with the big play. How can they implement a guy like Darnell Washington or these other talented tight ends, because they've got a history of good ones there?
Yeah, I expect to see a lot more 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends next year, just because they've had to practice it this spring with so many wide receivers out. But when you have a body like Darnell Washington that at 280 pounds can be a physical blocker, and then watch true freshman Brock Bowers, number 19. He's tight end here at the bottom of the offensive line there on the right side that can stretch the field vertical. So they got 2 really good complementary tight ends that can do multiple things out of that 12 personnel.
He's from Napa. He'd probably look better with the red, but he's on black today. Washington and Bowers on one side.
Bullard with the stop for the red team.
You scouted that area, right, Tom?
I wouldn't mind. I was supposed to go to a wedding out there this spring, but my plans changed. Carson Beck's got Kendall Milton behind him. He's a California kid out of Fresno Buchanan High School. Huge expectations for Kendall Milton. He said one thing he's really worked on this spring is getting better in pass protection. Beck throws on the run. Incomplete.
Next pass is incomplete.
Interesting conversation with JT Daniels, and I think it fits Carson Beck here. And that was as a quarterback throwing off platform, Jordan, which is something you talk about a lot. College quarterbacks see guys in the NFL have success doing it. Very few of them have Patrick Mahomes' talent or the years of experience of others. Is it hard to be accurate when you're on the run like that?
Oh, extremely hard. You got to practice it, and it's something that you have to have somewhat of an innate ability to change your arm angle, but also the athleticism to use your hips while on the run, right? When you're moving, you lose the power in your lower body. You got to regenerate that with your hips and your upper body, and we'll focus on that a little bit this drive with JT Daniels because we mentioned he watches Rodgers film, Mahomes film. Those guys use their lower body, not their feet, their hips and torque to create so much power on the run and off platform. Something you'll see JT Daniels do when it almost looks like he's doing a jump throw. It's not a jump throw, but if we see it, I'll explain it. It's just a way to create velocity off platform.
I think it's interesting we talk about JT Daniels watching film of NFL quarterbacks. It's not like your average fan watching a game on Sunday afternoon. This is different. This is film study.
Yeah, this is when this quarterback was rolling left. What is he doing with his feet to create velocity? How does he get his hips through the throw?
Daniels is also a tinkerer as he comes out of the shotgun and is able to find Zamir White. And he was telling us yesterday, I've switched my stance in shotgun numerous times. He goes, I did it last year. I changed my stance in the middle of a drive. How rare is that?
Yeah, he walked that back, and I think he noticed he probably shouldn't have said that because he reiterated later in the interview, oh, well, no, I don't know if I change it mid-drive. He probably does. But that's the thing. He's searching for the best way to do things, and that's a good thing. But also, you got to find the fine line, right? You got to make sure you find something that works and stick to it. You're going to see right now in gun, his right foot is forward. Started his career left foot forward at USC, then went balance. Now he's right foot forward.
That one was on the money. but incomplete, trying to find A.D. Mitchell. He's got an interesting recruiting background. Didn't play his senior year. Wanted to be ready to play once he got to campus, formerly an Ole Miss commit.
And again, going for that back shoulder throw to A.D. Mitchell. We saw one on the money. That one, JT maybe would have wanted that a foot more outside, but that's a play that as those two get more reps together, get more comfortable with each other, that will be much easier to execute. Very difficult throw, takes a lot of reps.
Kirby was telling us that since Mitchell wasn't playing last year, he sent him training film, literally running routes in the backyard. Kirby's like, yeah, there was a tree in the middle of the yard. He's out there coming in and out of breaks. Weren't quite sure what his quickness was, but Cole, they've been impressed with him since he got here to campus.
I like the first thing when we asked JT Daniels about A.D. Mitchell, he said he never missed a throwing session in the summer. That was the first thing that he brought up. And you hear about how he's a tireless worker. Coach Monken told me super, super twitchy, a guy that just has elite get-off.
Four-man rush, Daniels to the outside. Here's Mitchell again. He reclassified, and he essentially took a year off of football. He said, I didn't want to get to campus and then sit and wait for my opportunity to play. I wanted to be able to play whenever I got there, and if that meant that I had to get bigger, stronger, and faster, I was willing to step away for a game for a time to do that.
That's something I did. I gray shirted. Something not a lot of guys do, but you kind of save a year. I gray shirted at junior college because I was small and needed to put on weight. So love that he's taken advantage. Oh, again, going for that back shoulder, but love that he's taken advantage and taken control of his career. Knew he had something to work on and decided to make moves to do that.
Ball start. Offense, number 80, 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
Is that the first penalty?
Yeah. Hey, and it's great to see James Carter. This is a fantastic SEC crew we have working this game. Carter, if you remember, worked the LSU Florida game last year where he announced he threw the shoe 20 yards downfield. They've had a tough offseason. This crew lost one of their members in the offseason, so great to see these guys back together for the most part as a crew for this Georgia spring game. I'd never heard the threw the shoe 20 yards downfield as a penalty before. I'll never forget it. That's Samir White for a first down. Quay Walker, Lewis Seen, each coming up to make the tackle. One area we haven't discussed on the Georgia defensive side will be the secondary. Kirby is anxious to get these guys more reps. He said, you know, obviously they're missing some starters in the defensive backfield. He said the only thing you can do is play more balls, see more balls in the air, react to it, get on the field.
Yeah, they really need the corners to step up. It's really a three-man race right now for those two jobs. Obviously, at safety, they have a lot of experience with Lewis Seen and Chris Smith, but on the outside, it's a three-man race with Amir Speed, Jalen Kimber, and Keely Ringo. Those three guys all rotating around right now to figure out who is most consistent. That's the word Kirby used. I want consistency on the outside. When you play defense in a Kirby Smart system, you got to be able to do a lot at that position. Press, bail, see things, make adjustments on the fly, and 0 starts are returning this year on the outside. So an area to watch for sure today.
And Christopher Smith was only a part-time starter post-Halloween last year after Richard LeCounte's injury. That's complete to Mitchell. They will get some help from
Kimber there. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, I'll get some help from the transfer portal. Tyke Smith, third-team All-American West Virginia, was a safety there, will join the team.
And Tyke might fit somewhere in that nickel position. And right here, you see A.D. Mitchell, we've talked about a lot, working on Jalen Kimber, who probably has the lead right now. He's probably the best corner of the group, which is surprising because he's the least lanky, just at 6 foot, 170 pounds. The other guy's got a few inches on him, but he's physical. And he's got some elite traits on the outside.
Offensive line trying to pave the way for James Cook. Tate Ratledge at guard pulling. Cole, how do you view the competition on Georgia's O-line?
Well, you got a lot of new faces. Obviously, Trey Hill played a lot of football at center last season. Warren Erickson looks like he's handling things well early on in this game. You lose a guy like Ben Cleveland, who's just, I mean, physically, you're not going to have another guy that you can just plug and go that's going to be able to do the things that he can do or eat the squirrel that he can eat. So I think that's one of the big question marks for this football team heading into the season.
They served that at 5 bar. Daniels over the middle. Almost got the stripes.
I mean, if I'm a restaurant in Athens, I'm going to go with an appetizer to Cleveland. Why not? Let's go get you some squirrel, throw it in there.
Hey, this throw right here, watch JT's feet.
Make sure
watch
it's the right
JT's
season.
feet there. Cole, I'm going to cut you out just because I'm getting excited about quarterback stuff. We talked about that jump throw. We can see that again. This is what we're talking about. JT's left foot, his front foot, actually comes off the ground. Last year with his right knee injury, had a lot of trouble pushing off, started using this jump throw technique that you see out of Rodgers and Mahomes a lot, which that left foot comes off the ground, allows your hips to get through violently and generate more velocity without having to push off and step into a throw.
It leaves 3rd and 7 as the sun comes out. They had him pressured from behind, a little bit high that time to White. All right, so you illustrated the strengths of it. What makes it so difficult?
Well, it's because, watch this, your feet come off the ground. You have to be so disciplined with your shoulders. Notice his shoulders there stay level and his hips come through. Obviously, that ball would have been right on the money, I think, if that stripes would have gotten out of the way. But your feet are off the ground while the ball's coming out of your hand, Tom. So you have to be extremely athletic, and your timing has to be perfect. But it's a great way to generate velocity without stepping into a throw. So when you got traffic around you in the pocket, it's one thing you're going to have to do at this level and the next level.
Jake Camarda missed from 42, and now he pushes it right from 44. And so that's what's kept the red team from getting on the board. Black team's got a 7-0 lead. They'll get the ball back inside 5 minutes to go before the half. Up and down performance for JT Daniels so far in this one. 8 of 14 for 69 yards. Here's what the schedule looks like for Georgia. They jump out 20 Saturdays from today with Clemson up in Charlotte on September 4th. Pretty good motivator when you get the Tigers on the schedule to start things out.
Yeah, you look at it one way, you go, man, it's a tough one to open with, but it sets the tone in every practice and every single workout in the offseason. So I think they're going to be better for it week 1, regardless of how that game goes.
Brock Vandegrift takes over at quarterback for the black team. He'll roll out on the first possession, and he fires a strike. Comes out of the bullpen, firing fastballs, and he's able to find Steven Peterson, the Kennesaw product.
Well, I mean, the first thing you notice here from Vandegrift is the hair flowing in the wind out here on the run. I mean, unbelievable, but also a great ball on the run. He's obviously a very talented quarterback. He's a 4-star out of high school, big-bodied guy with a strong arm.
One service had him a 5-star. It'd be the first 5-star since Justin Fields at the quarterback position is able to find Kendall Milton. Now, we had a great conversation with Todd Monken in preparation for the G-Day game, and Monken was talking about all of the different quarterbacks that they went through last year. Of course, Dwan Mathis got a start, and he said, listen, Dwan showed flashes during practice, but we weren't able to translate that into production and consistency on game day. And he made a really interesting comment as Vandegrift gets chased from behind on his 2nd and 5, and he'll scramble his way for a quarterback run and a first down. Tom Monken told us, he said, I really felt the ghost of Justin Fields around the program, that there was this fear that Dwan Mathis was going to turn into the great quarterback that got away if we didn't have an opportunity for him to play. And it turned out that that consistency wasn't there. But I thought that was a really telling comment, that maybe as a staff, they felt the fear that they're going to let a great guy walk out the door.
Yeah, and you think about it, that when Justin Fields was with Georgia, he'd come in the game and he'd make mistakes. Yes, he was super talented, but he didn't have enough reps. He had certain packages. And so Dwan Mathis would come in the game. He'd show flashes of the physical ability and the talent. And then you'd see somebody, you go, wait a minute, does he just need more time? And so you're in a very weird situation as a coach of trying to get a guy ready to play, having just had that experience of Justin Fields looking the same way in practice, then turned out to be something much better at his next stop.
Vandegrift's got some reps at the number 2 quarterback throughout the course of spring ball, and that one was on time, able to thread it through to find Ladd McConkey. Monken also told us, we're talking to him about the Kentucky game where they really leaned on the running game, and they knew that if they didn't turn the ball over, that Kentucky wasn't going to be able to score enough points to win the game. And it was a game plan that Georgia needed to come out and find a victory. And he said, listen, I'd be lying if I'd said I didn't look at stats. We all look at stats. He said, I don't want to be the 80th ranked offense out there. I want us to score points. I want to stretch the defense and get the ball in the end zone. And now they'll have the opportunity to do that. That one popped up loose, and Vandegrift sandwiched as that one is recovered by the red team.
Ball gets loose and recovered by the red team.
Now what a quarterback wants to do, turns it over.
Load with recovery.
You start thinking too much as a young kid, right? I mean, this is part of what Kirby Smart wants to see. We saw Carson Beck handle the early pressure really well. A couple great throws out the gate from Brock Vandegrift, and then your eyes, right? The most that happens for a quarterback is that millisecond right before the ball is snapped. So you're trying to take in information while that ball is coming at you. If you lose your concentration, even just for a split second, that can happen.
Well, offensive coordinator Todd Monken brought in to be able to stretch the offense. That vertical passing game. Another fine play, by the way, by Zion Logue. Sophomore at 11 on Tennessee. Had a tip pass earlier in the game, and now the fumble recovery. And now Stetson Bennett. First snap, first attempt, and he finds James Cook. Bennett gives Georgia a very comfortable security blanket at the quarterback position.
Yeah, and that's what Monken and Kirby talked to us about yesterday is, look, he's not getting a lot of reps. Beck's getting a lot of the twos. Vandegrift is getting some twos, most of the threes. Stetson needs to be a guy that if something crazy happens, he can step in without a lot of reps and provide a lot of value. Something that guys have to do at the next level in the NFL. Backups don't get a lot of reps, but you are counted on to come in and run the offense whether you got reps or not. Something they're going to need out of Stetson. He won't be the backup, but he will be a guy that they need from a value standpoint to step in and help him out if they're in a pinch.
I mean, a few years ago behind Jake Fromm, he got all the number 2 reps. Now, there probably weren't a whole lot of reps to go around at that time.
And then last year, the starter for most of the season, a lot of the season. So he's got plenty of reps. You know what he can do. But there's some other guys with a higher ceiling on the roster ahead of him. Oh, my.
Whoa, what a grab with the flag, and Kearis Jackson showing out. Stetson Bennett with a perfect start to his afternoon, and this sets him up at 1st and goal.
I mean, vertical passing game, right? That's why they went to JT. Not much of that today, and all of a sudden Stetson goes, hey, did you forget about me? I can push the ball downfield. And Kearis Jackson with a highlight catch there. That's a veteran. It's a veteran play. We've seen a few drops on the outside by A.D. Mitchell, the young kid. That will come. Kearis Jackson has had a lot of reps in this offense and showed it there.
Zamir White in the backfield with Stetson Bennett. White dives for the goal line, and he is in.
Zamir White, a touchdown for the Red.
That's his great push on the left side of this offensive line. Jordan Davis in there. There's some big bodies up front for the black squad down there, but great push. And Zamir White's going to get that one in from 2 yards out.
So red is on the board. Extra point attempt from Jake Camarda, senior from Norcross. Stetson Bennett looking pretty good. Jordan, walk us through this.
Well, it's a great job of fighting. Tight coverage on the outside. Jackson only gets one hand up for this, but that's all he needed. And the Red tie it up with steak dinner on the line, or Franken beans for the...
By Stetson Bennett. We've seen 4 different quarterbacks in this game, and Bennett walking through that fantastic one-handed grab by Kearis Jackson. Black team with an opportunity now, and a deep ball from Carson Beck, wide open, and just a little wide for Arian Smith.
That
Smith
ball
playing with a cast on his right hand.
Just off. Tell you what, I've been impressed with Carson Beck. His ability to navigate the pocket. He's thrown a few balls under pressure. That one just a few feet off. But also keep an eye on Arian Smith, number 11 there, that Beck tried to hook up with downfield. He can fly. He's a track guy. He'll probably be more of a role player next year, but he has home run hitting ability to stretch the field. And with this wide receiver room in shambles with injuries, he might be a guy that could get some looks next year.
Georgia will return 8 starters on offense. That one just in front of Brock Bowers, the high-profile tight end came in. They return their top 8 wide receivers, their top 7 rushers, and their top 2 passers are coming back. But you mentioned the wide receiver room being in shambles. They're going to count on 4 injured wide receivers returning, and returning in a way where they can not just contribute but be playmakers in the SEC.
And that's the thing, when all those guys have missed so much time this spring, it gives guys like Arian Smith, who is a role player but has talent, some time to showcase what he can do. But make no mistake, this is going to be a deep, talented receiver group when everyone's healthy this fall, and led by Jermaine Burton, who I think is an absolute star.
Complete over the middle, and the ball may have came loose on the back end after the catch by Brock Bowers. It'll be a first down for the black team.
So we mentioned Brock earlier in the game. 4-star, tight end, 6'4", 230. He's a guy that stretches the field. Darnell Washington, the big body tight end, is more of a blocker. He can stretch the field, but Brock Bowers, number 19, is a guy to keep your eye on if you're a Georgia fan, because, like I said, I think there will be more 12 personnel utilized next year, because the strength of this offense right now is running backs and tight ends, and Bowers is a guy that he will be really good. And Todd Monken said he's going to be a player. I don't know when, but he is going to be a player. He's raw right now, extremely talented, can stretch the field. If he can put it all together, he's going to be a guy that's going to make some waves next year as a young kid.
Cole, you had a chance to visit with Todd Monken, and not just yesterday with the rest of us on the Zoom, but also pregame today. Anything new about what this offense may look like?
Well, he talked a lot about the tight end position, like you guys just mentioned. Bowers could be more of a flex guy, line up, and I think that makes it difficult there is the defense doesn't really know how to identify him. So you line him up in so many different places. But he mentioned the youth again. He said, listen, we got a lot of leadership at quarterback, running back, but there's a lot of youngsters that are going to get a lot of playing time early. We've got to get them on the same page. He mentioned the offensive line. He said, I'm not worried about the talent. I'm worried about that group gelling, worried about them coming together, the chemistry. Same thing with some of these receivers, some of the younger tight ends that are actually going to have roles for this offense. He said, I don't know when it's going to happen. Going back to what Jordan just said, he said, we're going to be really good. We just got to make sure everybody's getting on the same page.
Former offensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns, 3 years with the Buccaneers, and was a head coach at Southern Miss. 1st and 10 now for Carson Beck and the black team. Under 2 minutes to go before the half, and that one was behind his intended receiver, Braxton Hicks.
Another valuable part of this game for these young quarterbacks, 2-minute drill. You saw Carson Beck right there go to his receiver. I think he expected him to continue running on that short in route. Receiver started to throttle down, saw zone coverage. Those are things you got to get on the same page. So good to see Beck in this 2-minute drill going and telling what he's seen to his receiver. Try to make those improvements.
Finds a soft spot again. This is Bowers one more time.
I mean, in high school, Bowers obviously played tight end, also played wide receiver, running back, kick returner, and had 25 tackles as a linebacker. Talk about an athlete. The kid was playing everywhere.
Yeah, and that was all his junior season.
Yeah.
They didn't play this past fall. His high school was getting ready to play 5 games in the spring, and he said, you know, I'd be better off to go ahead and get into Athens as an early enrollee. A good chunk of the recruiting class has done just that, and another successful recruiting period for Georgia. And you look over the last 4 years, and that cycle, they've been as good as anybody in the country. Here's Podlesny from 35. And he punches it through. 1:25 to go in the half. This is how the last game of the season ended for Georgia, with Jack Podlesny doing the damage.
Dagger.
53-yarder with 3 seconds left on the clock. Cole, does it feel like a game day to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Stands are pretty much full as they can be. Pretty good crowd atmosphere. The energy's pretty good. We got guys that are actually in pads, snapping and throwing a football around, making tackles. So feels like an actual football game.
Handoff to James Cook. JT Daniels had some really interesting comments when he talked about coming from the Pac-12 to the SEC. He said, I played in front of COVID crowds last year, and those were the loudest crowds I'd ever played in. He said, you got to remember, I came out to USC for my spring game. There were 500 people there. He said, the importance of football in this area was not lost on me, but it was part of a culture shock. He said, of course, in L.A., you've got the Lakers, you've got the Dodgers, you've got the film industry, the music industry. There's a lot of things to distract you. He goes, it was amazing my first time in Athens as I went through downtown and saw every restaurant, every bar, every shop with a Georgia flag in it in red and black. He said that's common throughout the entire SEC. He said saw the same thing at Missouri. He said, but that's not common where I come from.
Welcome to the SEC. Just means more around here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, though. You talk about the culture. I thought it was interesting. He also mentioned the defense, right? He's like, look, Pac-12, it's, when we say this sometimes, and I think fans roll their eyes, but when you hear it from the quarterback's mouth, who has played in both leagues, he's like, look, Pac-12, mostly zone coverage. He said, you know what? I don't think I ever saw an outside linebacker that was 6'4", 230, 240, running a 4.4 on the West Coast. They don't have those guys. And they have them on every single roster here in the SEC. So there's a big difference that he was catching up on coming over from the Pac-12 to the SEC, not just in culture, but also schematically on what he sees when he walks to the line of scrimmage and how he diagnoses defenses.
He wasn't the only one that discussed that. Todd Monken did too. He said, listen, even in the NFL, you get either 1 or 2 looks. He said, but with Saban's coaching tree and the match zone that people run, as Daniels gets pressured there and is able to get it off to Zamir White. It's a lot more complicated, it seems, when you try to dissect the defense.
Inside red territory.
That was telling.
The consistencies. Yeah.
I thought it was telling of Monken to kind of say, look, we got to the middle of the season and we weren't even running 30, 40% of what we had put in. I think he started to learn as the season went on, coming from the NFL to college, that defenses are a little different, and they're very nuanced here, especially as you mentioned in that Saban tree. So he was kind of retooling things as the season went on from an offensive scheme standpoint, not to mention that he had a couple different quarterbacks he was trying to do that for. So expected it's been a pleasant surprise this offseason, or not surprise, but pleasant experience to just design an offense for one quarterback for Todd Monken.
Yeah, finally get the opportunity to have a spring. And you got a guy like Zamir White. He's able to rip off another big one. 6 feet even, 215 pounds, leading rusher last year, 300-yard games. Went for 136 against Kentucky. That was a run-first game for Georgia. It went so quick, Cole made his flight. Here's White again.
That right there, really good decision. I think a lot of people look at that and go, oh, come on, push it downfield. Quarterback, your number one role in a 2-minute drill is to understand the situation, know the time, and know your timeouts. You had 2 timeouts there in 38 seconds. You're across midfield. You got plenty of time. If it's not there, check it down, get 3 or 4 yards, and keep the sticks moving. Can always burn one of those timeouts. Now, with 1 timeout, got to be a little more aware of field goal position, right? Where you're putting the ball, making sure you got time in order to take a couple shots, but also give your field goal kicker a chance.
Red team has 1 timeout remaining.
They're going to bring blitz. Nope.
Nope, he came late, and they almost got to him. Daniels a little bumping in the pocket, and they'll whistle him dead after he got out of there. They only brought 4, but it was delayed coming from, I believe, Nolan Smith.
I think it
Final
was
charge
actually
time out of the half.
Jalen Kimber, the
Red
corner.
team.
They showed pressure from the field, backed off, so JT as a quarterback thinks he's good, and they brought the cat corner alone, Jalen Kimber, from the sideline, and that's what hit home. Great disguise, and I've been surprised. Mostly spring games, defense plays a little vanilla. Kirby's guys are dialing it up. Look at that corner pressure. Probably in a game situation, JT takes a big hit there. There's been a lot of pressure. They're holding nothing back in G-Day. It's great.
Great visit with Dan Lanning yesterday. Well, he was excited to get a spring under his unit's belt. Falling catch made, 23 seconds left on the clock. Then Sadani Mitchell. 22 seconds left in the half. JT Daniels trying to punch one in. Going for it all. Back corner and into the hedges.
Love the idea there. But Todd Monken's going to say to JT in film, leave it on the field, right? Always got to give your guy a chance to make a play. That one landed about 5 yards out of bounds. Give A.D. Mitchell, at 6'4", 190 pounds, a chance to go up and make a big play there.
17 seconds left in the half. Cole talked to Kirby at the break. Here's pressure up the middle. Pocket holds. And they say incomplete. Maybe a catch in the NFL. Looked like Demetrius Robertson got one down. We'll see.
Yeah, deep out route to the field. Little pressure was coming on that one, so JT knew he had a one-on-one matchup.
Nope.
Yep, just on the line there. From a guy in 16 there. Talk about a vet. This is going to be his 6th year playing college football. He's been around the block.
Yeah. The pride of Savannah Christian High School. 10 seconds left in the half. 3rd and 10. Daniels fires. Caught! Great hands by A.D. Mitchell. That was a stinger out of the hand of JT Daniels.
Arm talent, Tom. This ball
against the
had
defense.
to be thrown
That penalty is
with
behind.
a lot of
The result of the
velocity,
play
with the
is a
safety
touchdown.
coming over the top. And JT put it right on the money to A.D. Mitchell, who they've been off page a little bit today, but that one was right on the money. You see the safety closing in. That is a heck of a ball from JT.
Point after is good. JT Daniels had some inconsistency
That is
in
the
his
end of the
second
first
series.
half.
Comes back out in the 2-minute drill and leads a red team to a touchdown. He is 13 of 21 for 99 yards in the half. Stetson Bennett, a perfect 3 for 3, backing him up. Beck, 7 of 13, and Vandegrift, 4 of 4.
So we'll spring games. You want to see who, when the lights turn on, are going to play their best. And A.D. Mitchell right there had a slow start to the day, but he has since made a couple big plays down the stretch, and he might be a guy to watch for next year.
Carson Beck, 7 of 13 for a 112 in the first half. Washington, good chunk of that with 51 yards on 1 catch. On the other side, JT Daniels, 14 of 22. A lot of his going to A.D. Mitchell, who's got 5 grabs for 80 yards and a score. And Kearis Jackson staying loose on the sideline. He's got 41 yards worth of catches. McConkey slips his way through. And Black will start the second half with the ball. And let's see, going to bring Carson Beck out to start the second half. Interesting talking with Todd Monken about Carson. He said there's been incredible growth with him. He changed his approach as both a student and a student athlete. He said, listen, a lot of people have done that over the pandemic and hit the reset button, and that's kind of turned him around both on and off the football field. He said a lot of freshmen get to campus and have to gather themselves and get their feet underneath them, but he had a great spring, and he might be their most natural thrower.
He definitely is. I mentioned it earlier, the way he can change arm angles for a big, tall guy is special. He's got a cannon for an arm. But it's an interesting point that Monken made. It's hard enough as a freshman to walk on a college campus, right? Especially one like Georgia or an Alabama. I mean, there's so much pressure on the football field. You're acclimating yourself to campus life, let alone, oh, wait, hit the brakes. COVID last year threw a wrench in all of that. Yeah. So all these freshmen, I think, had a very interesting year, and I think we're all going to see how they grow just as individuals and on the football field.
A little bit of work for Kendall Milton. That was another aspect of the conversation that we had with JT Daniels. And I asked him about the pressure that comes with being the quarterback at the University of Georgia. And JT said, listen, if that was my goal to do it for attention and adulation, that would bring pressure along with it, but that's not why I'm in it. He said that my motivation is the process, to get better every day, to do my best in the field, to see a blitz come up the middle. Milton answers with it. And I thought that was such a mature answer and a different perspective from JT Daniels. He said, listen, I'm not saying that it's not fun, and if you get the adulation, sure, that's great, but that's not my motivation here to play this position.
That was a little bit of a shocking answer. Not in a bad way, but in a really good way. Because a lot of times when we sit down with these kids, you know, I feel like sometimes we get the answer that they want us to hear. And I felt nothing but 100% genuine response from JT in that. He's like, I don't do it to be a superstar. I do it because I want to be really good. I do it because I love this. So it doesn't matter if it's Georgia or USC or Vanderbilt for that matter. He just loves football.
Whoa! That one overthrown and intercepted by Dan Jackson. And Jackson able to bring it back upfield. He has gotten rave reviews throughout spring ball, and the sophomore from Gainesville, Georgia, able to take one away.
Looked like Beck was trying to hit Arian Smith down the field, the track speedster. See what happens here. It's a post route. Yeah, it's what you got to do as a young quarterback. You got to realize that safeties can recover in this league. And so that ball has to be thrown much more on a line. When you throw the ball down the middle of the field, if you have a two safety look, or even if you move the single high safety, you don't have a ton of time to put that ball with a lot of air. And that's something that Carson Beck will start to learn more and more, and will become second nature the more reps he gets. But a great play by Jackson.
Yeah, Dan Lanning was raving about Dan Jackson, that he's a guy that's going to be a player for us. He's going to make an impact and get opportunities. Daniels completes it to Zamir White. One other nugget that we gathered from JT Daniels that you hit on immediately, because I could tell even over the Zoom that this resonated with you. JT Daniels loves thinking. He loves process. He loves board games. He said, I used to be a big Risk player. I can't find anybody that plays Risk anymore. Why did that resonate with you?
Well, I just was listening to the way he analyzes his game, how he analyzes football, how he analyzes his role on the Georgia campus. I'm like, this guy's got to be really good at either a card game or a board game, just the way he thinks, because I think that way too. And I grew up playing chess, and I think a lot of how I analyze things came from that background. So he throws Risk out there, he throws Monopoly out there, and JT, I feel you. I can't get anybody to play Monopoly with me in my household either, one of my favorite games. So it didn't surprise me that he excels at those type of competitions as well, just by the way he analyzes and thinks. I thought it was impressive.
I'd play Monopoly with you, but you'd probably try to flip Park Place and make it even better.
No, you don't need Park Place. You start on Baltic Avenue and you work your way up. Those cheaper properties, you get hotels quicker. You start draining money on your competitors. Everybody wants Park Place and Boardwalk. I'm going to win it with the greens in Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, you're going to change the color of those greens. That's what you do.
God, I love Monopoly. Anyways,
shoots and ladders.
Yeah. Let's do shoots and ladders.
Get some Candyland?
You would, Cole. True offensive lineman.
Little bump in the coverage and no flag, a mere speed. Out of Jacksonville offering the coverage that time.
Here's the other thing to think about as we watch this. And JT's had some really good moments. There's been some moments with some miscommunication as well, and the pocket is broken down. This is not their offense completely, right? Kirby alluded to it. Look, we got a couple pressures. We're showing the ones that people know we do. We're not showing anything else. So this offense is going to look much different when the fall comes around. Todd Monken is keeping it very vanilla. Day 1, day 2, day 3 install stuff that his guys know really well, and that doesn't tip their hand too much of who they're going to be next year, because I know there will be some big adjustments.
How about Devontae White here, Cole?
Well, it doesn't have to be a pressure. It can be a stun. We've seen a lot of games up front, a lot of twists and slants, maybe some zone fires as well. So I think Matt Luke's going to be a little disappointed at the way that offensive line has handled the pressures and stunts today. Regardless if it's 2 or if it's 22, you still have to have that communication in that field to be able to exchange some of those games we've seen up front. But this is going to be one of the better defensive lines in all of college football, so you expect some of those individuals to make plays.
Matt Luke, former head coach at Ole Miss, in charge of the O-line. There's a lot of head coach experience on this Kirby Smart staff. Monken, formerly at Southern Miss, and of course Will Muschamp on the staff as well.
Cole, there was a name when we were talking the defensive line with this coaching staff that kind of surprised you and me.
Talking about Jalen Carter?
I am.
I was really surprised to hear Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning tell us that Jalen Carter is going to push for a starting job. Now, that might not sound ridiculous to a lot of people. He was a high-profile recruit. He's a guy that has a lot of talent, but Devontae Wise played a lot of football in a Georgia uniform. I'm not going to go on camera right now and tell you that I think anybody's going to beat Jordan Davis out on this football team. However, those were some of the names that were thrown out that he's competing for a starting spot with. This kind of spring that he's had impressing some of these coaches. You put his film on last year, he's explosive. He's a guy that can get upfield. He understands how to strike and shed. For a young player, the depth either way on the interior of this Georgia defense.
14-10, red team leading the black team. And we got a new quarterback on the field for the black team. 20 Saturdays away from Georgia Clemson. We talked about Will Muschamp being on this staff. Redshirt freshman Jackson Muschamp going to get an opportunity here. Out of Hammond School in Columbia, where his dad obviously was a head coach at South Carolina. And we're getting a few more reserves in now, about midway through the third quarter.
I feel like Jackson Muschamp's got to know some defensive football pretty well. You grow up with your dad, a defensive coach in the household. I feel like he's seen a thing or two.
Yeah, but it's probably a pretty good chance.
Yeah, just, I bet they got on the whiteboard a few times.
That one got tipped, a little wobbler coming out, and it was still caught by Peterson, I believe. And indeed, good hands by Steven Peterson. You think that guy has a vested interest in what number 14's doing here on this drive?
Yeah, or maybe he's dialing up some extra pressures. You never know. No, I'm sure he absolutely.
Double eagle blitz.
Yeah, I'm sure he wants to see Jackson do well. But what a great ad for this Georgia staff. We all have been around Will so much over the last couple of years. Nothing but the highest respect for him as a coach, as a person. So just a great ad by Kirby Smart to have him on this staff.
Extra set of eyes and ears and all the. I think. The way I view it is when you get a staff that you can really trust and has great experience, it's one thing in the day-to-day, but it's other thing when you get something out of left field that you are not 100% prepared for, that reaction like, hey, I've been through this before. We had to deal with this in South Carolina or Texas or Auburn or whatever my previous stop was. And we can make an adjustment here as Muschamp. Well, they flipped it up now, put Vandergrift back in. Cole, what do you got?
I talked to Will before the game and just asked him, what's it like being back in Athens? I said, it's almost kind of like you're going to extra innings or overtime here as a dad. Not just Jackson, but Robert Muschamp, quality control for this staff as well. He laughed and he said, man, that's been the best part about it. He said, I'm comfortable, I'm happy, I like the guys that I'm working with. Kirby actually wants my input. We have a lot of information that we're exchanging. Just said he's having an absolute blast being back home.
That's really cool. Here comes pressure. And they got hands on him. And credit the red team with a sack.
This is the point in the spring game when it starts to get a little sloppy, right? You get in your second, your third, some of your four-string guys in, and this is where you can absolutely see communication and the role it plays, especially up front for the offensive line, right? I mean, communication and cohesiveness are two of the most important things for the offensive line. When you're starting to patchwork and put guys together who haven't had a ton of reps, you're going to get some breakdowns like that.
Noah Chumley to punt it away. And a fair catch taken. We'll see the red team come back out with 5:39 remaining in the third quarter. The red on top 14-10. It was funny. We talked with Kirby yesterday, like, hey man, we staying traditional? What's on the line here? And he said, yeah, we're keeping with the program. Steaks for the winners, beanie weenies for the losers. He said the problem I have from a motivation standpoint is some of my guys actually prefer the beanie weenies over the steaks.
I feel like every college kid at some point is like, just, you got that in the pantry. You got a plethora of it. You start eating it at 12, 1 in the morning. Like, I mean, that's kind of a comfort food. So I feel them. Like, in college, you don't get to go get a nice steak. So you're like, man, I'm going to stick with what I know. Give me the beanie weenies. I know Cole's that kind of guy. Tom, you're a steak guy. I could go either way.
There's John Fitzpatrick with the grab. Yeah, sorry. I'm going filet over the pigs in a blanket any day.
I mean, I actually thought Kirby was going to go, the thing that's changed now is cost of attendance check, so these guys can actually go out and get whatever they want. They don't have to eat the beanie weenies, but that's going to be a hard pass for me, Jordan. Sorry.
Hey, speaking of going out and getting whatever you want, the NCAA opened up the transfer portal, so you don't have to sit out a year as you had in years past, even though that had been relaxed to the point of absurdity recently with so many transfers being approved immediately. If you're Georgia, and it's not like it's you walk down the aisle at Publix and just pick whatever you want. There are certain limitations in terms of roster size and scholarships available at certain times. But if you're Kirby Smart and you get a chance to make a trade deadline deal after the spring ends and you get into the offseason, is it realistic that they could bolster their roster by looking to the transfer market?
I think it's not only realistic, I think it's necessary. I mean, the West Virginia DBs coming over, but I think they absolutely need to get a corner. And this does kind of open up the market. It's not completely a wild, wild west because, the SEC still needs an in-conference waiver for guys that are transferring. But if you're at corner and you are a high recruit and you're sitting on another roster at 2 or 3 in line, and you're like, man, I heard Georgia needs some help. Would you not want to come here with an opportunity to step in and play right away? So I absolutely think that's something that Georgia has in mind. And I think some guys across the country may be looking at it now with that new rule and going, I can transfer and play right away. I'm going to do it.
Let me counter that, though. If you're number 2 or 3 in line somewhere else,
number 5. 5-yard
are they
penalty.
in such a dire position that you would
down.
step in and be helpful to a team that's aiming for a national championship? Or are we talking more along the lines of you're a frontline guy at a team that's not necessarily a college football playoff team, not a team that's competing for national championships, where you could say, hey, I have a chance to achieve a team goal over there with that squad?
Yeah, I think it's both, right? Yeah, so you make a good point. I think there are veterans across the country that could go, we're not going to compete next year. I have some draft stock, but maybe I'd like to get more exposure. And so you got a guy that's maybe got 1 year left that could say, hey, I've accomplished a lot. I know I can step in and get on the field right away. Or I was kind of mentioning you have a 4 or 5-star recruit that's on a roster sitting somewhere that's going, I thought I was going to play right away. Let me go over here and get a fresh start, right? So I think you might see a little bit of both across the board and maybe even at Georgia as well.
Cole, is that rule and the loosening of those restrictions, is that a good thing for college football as a whole? And can you see Georgia making moves? And obviously it goes both ways. If you have a glut of talent in one position, you may lose guys. But how do you view it?
I think it's a good thing, Tom, that you actually have a little bit of clarity now to the rule. Do I love it, the fact that guys can just bail and leave? No, not really. But I think it's good that if the guy's situation not ends up being what he imagined it was going to be out of high school, then yeah, you can go somewhere else and maybe hit the reset button, get a fresh start, and that could completely turn your career around. I mean, when Jordan and I played college football, the word transfer was almost a death sentence. It just didn't happen. Could Georgia add a couple of guys? I think experience is what you guys mentioned that would be most valuable to this football team. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think they can go get an offensive lineman that's more talented than what they have right now.
Fantastic touch on that pass down the sideline. And that's James Cook for a Georgia first down for the red team.
This is great to see from JT Daniels. You've seen him attempt quite a few back shoulder throws. Not much has been open downfield, but you see James Cook on a wheel route out of the backfield working on a linebacker. It's great identification by JT to see the one-on-one matchup. It's a great ball placement and a great play design by Todd Monken. And James Cook's a guy to watch, right? This running back group is loaded, but Cook, 225 yards last year receiving. He's a guy that can catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. They might move him around quite a bit next year.
I love that versatility out of the backfield. .120 to go in the quarter. JT Daniels 21 of 31 for 209 yards.
Oh, he didn't like that play call. It's like a pitcher looking at his catcher. They get curveball. What curveball? Give me the fastball. Let's go.
Under a minute to go in the quarter. This is a 2nd and 2. On the run. Beautiful play, and it turns into a touchdown. JT Daniels went on the move and able to find Kearis Jackson.
You were talking about it, Tom, right?
Up on black.
Watching guys in the NFL that do it well outside the pocket. How do they do it well? Watch JT Daniels' hips. His body is going to the left. Watch his hips snap right there. He gets his shoulders around his lower body. He's able to get through the throw so he can throw an accurate throw with velocity right on target. That's a great job by JT. You don't have to run a 4.4 to be a guy that can make plays outside the pocket.
Jake Camarda for the point after. Georgia returning all their specialists. Camarda is the punter, and Podlesny is a kicker, and their long snapper in good shape there. Kearis Jackson should see some action in the return game, and he's able to haul in a 9-yard touchdown pass from JT Daniels.
Look, I know you might watch that throw or the replay and go, yeah, it was only like a 10-yard throw, right? That is one of the harder throws for a quarterback. It's even harder when you don't have all your velocity, like a full sprint where you can get a lot of momentum on the run helps out a little bit. JT wasn't moving very fast. He was going completely to his left, and he's got to throw a ball on the move in tight coverage. This is a very, very difficult throw with guys in his face. Very underrated ability there to get that ball on the money in tight coverage.
When you watch JT Daniels today, do you see or even get the feel for any lingering effects from his knee injury? I know it was a long time ago.
No, I don't think so. I think I've seen good mobility. I think I've seen good pocket presence in how he's moved within the pocket. Again, he's not going to be a guy that's going to hurt you with his legs way outside the pocket. That's not who he needs to be. He needs to be like Mac Jones was last year. Mac moved great in the pocket. He was explosive within the pocket to get himself back on platform, avoid rush, and make a few throws like that outside the pocket. That's who JT Daniels is and who he can be. And I don't see that knee having any lingering effects right now.
Brock Vandegrift with a fastball hauled in by Darnell Washington. Here's Kendall Milton. Really interesting how Georgia has used its number 3 running back over the years, and Milton might be in line for action in that regard. JT Daniels has thrown a couple of touchdowns, 226 yards.
illegal formation against the offense, more than 4 players in the backfield, that penalty is declined. Be second down.
Oh, walk
Try
it back.
again.
He declined it. That was Kirby doing a little override there.
I think coaches should be allowed on the field during games. I'm down.
That'd be awesome. It's got to get out of the way if there's an interception going the other way, though. That could be.
Yeah,
a
it depends
liability
on who you are.
Yeah. If you're Coach O, you might just body up.
JT Daniels has thrown a couple of touchdowns in this one. He looks comfortable and ready for the season. It's a 21-10 lead for the first-team offense. Pretty good afternoon for JT Daniels, Jordan. He's getting some help from his receivers.
Yeah, he's really done it all today, and it started a little slow, a couple short completions to get things going, and then he really showed off the arm strength on this touchdown throw to the sidelines, an absolute bullet. And then strength doesn't always mean talent, but he has both. This is arm talent right here, the ability to throw the ball accurately with touch down the sidelines to a running back, James Cook, and then great off-platform throw there, showing no signs of that knee that bothered him a little bit last year, slowing him down at all today.
May be done for the day as we head into the fourth quarter. Brock Vandegrift, freshman 5-star recruit at quarterback now. And here's Kendall Milton. I was talking about how Georgia has utilized its third running back over the years. Seth Emerson from The Athletic had a great article about it a couple weeks ago. Last 4 years, the third man in Georgia's backfield has accounted for 14% of their rushing yards. Only Alabama and Kentucky has used that third man more. And in addition to that, it's easy to see how that player, it was almost served an apprenticeship as the third man before moving into a more featured role. In 2017, it was Swift, Ryan Harrion in 18, it was White in 20, and White in 19, and then McIntosh. And it's an opportunity the way that obviously you need depth at that position in the SEC, but also it's not like they use historically that third running back in simply a running back role. They appreciate the versatility of those guys.
Yeah, and it's a great way for that third running back to develop because you're allowed to play fast. Your package of plays is a little bit smaller. You're not asked to do everything the first or second guy will do. So when you're in, you're not thinking. You're reacting. You're playing fast. I think we saw a lot of that from Kendall Milton last year, and he's going to take a huge step this next year.
Vandegrift over the middle, incomplete. And Cole standing by with Monty Rice.
Pass incomplete.
Obviously, one of the most productive linebackers in the SEC the last few years, leader in tackles in the SEC since 2017. Monty, what have you seen that you liked about this Georgia defense so far today?
Man, them boys flying around like they always do, because that's what we coach to do, and
3rd and 10.
it just goes to all the work, shows you all the work that those guys put in on a day-to-day basis.
Can you just describe for us what it's like to play in a Dan Lanning, Kirby Smart defense?
Man, you got to be fearless, relentless, run to the ball every play, because if not, you ain't going to be able to fit in. Uh-oh. Sack.
All right, Monty, so a lot of experience gone off this defense. You've been around these guys, though. Who do you kind of have your eye on to potentially make an impact for this Georgia defense in 2021?
The whole defense, because I know how hard those guys work. And, you got veteran linebackers in Channing, Nakobe, Quay. You got a lot of good players, even Ryan Davis, Tresman. We got a lot of good guys in there that can, at linebacker, you want to have somebody that can, take control. And I think all of those guys had the ability to do that.
What's it like playing behind a guy like Jordan Davis?
Man, people scared of him. He messing up the center snap count just because they so worried about moving him. You can't move him. So it was honestly a blessing to be able to play with somebody like that.
So Kirby told us right before halftime that they've run 2 pressures today. I know you've been watching that group, but, come on, it's been more than 2 different pressures.
I'm not allowed to spill any secrets.
But you got to like that as a defensive guy, that he's kind of turning it loose. He's letting everybody run, right?
Yeah, but you want to just let them play because you still got a lot of new guys here that need to learn the playbook. So if you like make it too complicated, they won't be able to play. You know, when you get to the field, it's about, you know, turning it on and just flying around. It ain't about thinking.
All right, tell us about your prep for the NFL draft. I know that's coming up for you. Something you've been getting prepared for.
Yeah, I worked out at Exos from January to March, and I've been working out with Jamal Liggins in California and Hollywood. So, you know, keeping up with my conditioning and keeping my weight right. So, you know, in the draft is in 13 days, I think now. So, you know, or 12 days. So, just getting ready for that. It's kind of nerve-wracking a little bit, but, you know, that's just part of it, I guess. Oh, come on, Lewis! Oh yeah, come on, Lewis!
Call it, Mommy, call it.
Come on! Get him the pass.
Sexton's pass is intercepted by Lewis C.
You love the turnover pass, right?
You said what?
You love the turnover pass.
Oh, yeah, you got to love the turnover pass. It's one of the best traditions in college football.
Well, Monty, thanks for taking some time with us today, man. It's good
problem.
visiting
Thank you
with
for
you.
having me.
Congrats on a great career and good luck in the draft.
Thank you, for sure.
Former Georgia great, Tom. Monty Rice.
Yeah, to Lewis Scene's interception. Get him the Savage pads. Let's go. We'll reward him. Good grab by Scene. NFL draft on ESPN and ABC. All 3 days coverage on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, ESPN Radio, ESPN app, and the game day crew will be on ABC. Break it down for you in the college side. That's April 29th. Jordan, it was interesting hearing Monty talk about, and I think the average fan would love to hear more about this as they get pressure on Carson Beck, the preparation the guys go through to get ready for the draft, when he talks about training with certain entities and certain coaches and the specificity of draft training. What is that process like for guys who have been on a college campus and now are preparing just for the workouts in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, it's twofold. It's a grind and it's a whole lot of fun. He mentioned he's out in Hollywood at Exos. I mean, so it's a new experience, right? You're not in college anymore. You're getting some love from people. Some money's flowing your way for the first time in a while, probably. But from a football standpoint, it's all about those technical skills. The 5-10-5, the 40, the vert. A guy like Monty wants to show that he's explosive and he's quick. So especially the 5-10-5, especially the vertical for a guy like Monty who's got a ton of good tape. So you start to get granular. It's not about the tape anymore. It's about looking good, being fast, being in shape, and getting ready for OTAs and off-season training with wherever you end up.
You see Monty Rice on Kuiper's big board, the number 10 rated inside linebacker. We had Jim Nagy on at halftime, and he talked about, from an NFL perspective, from a player personnel administration perspective, you absolutely look at players from programs like Georgia a little bit differently. They come with a little bit more stock if you're coming out of Georgia, Notre Dame, Alabama, the ones he mentioned specifically, because you know the accountability that they've had within those programs over the years.
Yeah, and you know the competition they went through day in and day out, right? A lot of rosters will have a few really good players. Rosters like Alabama, like Georgia, like Ohio State, like Notre Dame, those rosters are really good from top to bottom. So the competition daily in practice makes you a better player. You mentioned the accountability, the expectations that are set for what your preparation needs to look like day in, day out translates very well to the NFL, more so at some of these programs than others, unfortunately.
It was nice of him to give us some insight, but he said he couldn't give it all away on how many different blitzes they're showing. 9:17 to go in the fourth quarter. G-Day game red with a 21-10 lead. We'll take a look and see who's coming out at quarterback after this. It's a 21-10 lead for the red team over the black, as getting almost midway through the fourth quarter. Here are the red team leaders today. JT Daniels thrown for 226. Zamir White's got 28 yards on the ground and a score. And A.D. Mitchell, new enough, doesn't have a headshot yet, but he's got a touchdown and 96 yards. He'll have one soon.
How they do him like that? No head. That's almost as bad as using my headshot for my first year, where my hair looks just terrible. Got to get that man a headshot. What are we doing?
Remember when Kirby was talking about his recruiting tape? Got gray shirted and said he just sent us tape from him running routes in the backyard.
I thought that was an amazing story. And he made a great point. He's like, look, a lot of times you can't tell how fast guys are on film. I mean, let's be honest. Some high school guys speed up their film. It depends on the competition. He's like, shoot, it's hard enough when they're on the football field playing a real game. When he's in the middle of the field, we don't know how fast he is, but he looked good coming in and out of his breaks. And so we took a gamble. And look, he turns out he's going to be a quality player that's going to have a chance to have a role in next year's offense and maybe make some big plays like he has today.
Yeah, it was funny. He said there was a tree in there. When's the last time you saw a guy running routes opposite trees? Here's Kurt Knisely, and he's going to take it off the right side. And there have been numerous issues from an injury standpoint that Georgia's had to deal with in the offseason and the spring. One of those belongs to Nakobe Dean, who had offseason shoulder surgery, has been out for the spring, but he's been in pads almost every day. And Dan Lanning was laughing about it. I said, oh, he must be out there in shorts and a t-shirt, right? He's like, no, he's dressed in pads, and he runs some drills that he's allowed to run and does the work on the side with the training staff. But then he's out there coaching, and he's coaching guys up, and he's, carrying his helmet around.
I love that. I mean, just a dude that loves football, right? And a true linebacker, you got to always have your head on a swivel. Even though you're not in contact, you never know where it's coming from. Keeps his pads on while he's coaching guys up. That was great to hear, and he's going to be leaned on a lot this year. Obviously, we talked to Monty Rice. With him gone, Nakobe Dean is a heck of a player, and they're going to lean on him to center that defense.
Dean had 14 tackles in that Kentucky game, a career high 15 tackles against Florida, and got to the quarterback in the Peach Bowl against Cincinnati. Had 4 pressures in that one. Cole, have you heard of that? A guy who's ineligible for contact showing up in full pads every day of practice?
No, we didn't get a lot of that. I mean, when you weren't going, you weren't practicing. I mean, a lot of it was spent, obviously, with the trainers. You'd be over there on the bike or you're doing some physical therapy type things. But I think that just I think it's a way for him to show his teammates he wants to be involved. He wants to be a part of the team, and that's a way for him to lead. So I thought it was pretty cool. I hadn't seen it a whole lot myself, to be honest.
Here's Zamir White out of the backfield and immediately wrestled down by Lewis Seen. Midway through the fourth quarter, the embarrassment of riches at running back continues. We've seen White and Cook featured for the red team, Milton and Edwards opportunities on the black team. McIntosh out with an injury as they go, ooh, a little extra at time. What do you guys, how do you view the running back rotation going into the fall for Georgia?
I think it's going to be a little bit by committee early on. Look, I mean, Zamir White is the workhorse, just under 800 yards last year. James Cook is very versatile out of the backfield. But I tell you what, I think Kendall Milton is going to be the best of all of them. And I think he'll get a lot more run early on. And I think at some point it's going to turn, and he's going to be the guy.
Daniels just off the hand of Mitchell.
Here's the guy we haven't talked about, Kenny McIntosh as well. We talked about injuries this spring. He's a dynamic player. I mean, you mentioned it, embarrassment of riches. And I would say, unfortunately, we talked about the positives of the transfer rule in that Georgia may need a DB. I'm not sure all these guys are going to be in camp next year. I mean, however it shakes out, there's so much talent in this running back room that you think maybe one of them might look elsewhere. I don't know.
Well, I think what I talked about earlier, the creativity and the versatility that they've used in regard to that position in years past is a way to get a guy touches by putting him in the slot or using him out of the backfield and keeping other guys fresh. The attitude of that position has changed over the years, I think. You mentioned White's carries, had 144 last year. I think guys also know, and we saw it with this Georgia program just a couple years ago, hey, if I got a guy next to me in the backfield that's really good and we can share carries and I have designs I'm playing on Sundays, that's going to keep me fresh and we can still win and I can still be featured enough. That wasn't a common theme or line of thinking, 10 years ago.
No, and I think you just look over to Alabama. I mean, Georgia has a couple really good examples of it with Chubb and Michelle. But you look over to Alabama, how many times they have had their fourth guy ends up being a dude that's in the Heisman conversation or winning a Heisman conversation in a couple of years. So no doubt, Todd Monken's going to design an offense that's going to allow a lot of these guys to have a role and to showcase their skills. And yeah, that's about the culture of Georgia. They have consistently produced running backs and kept guys on the roster because they've been involved and because that is the staple of who Georgia is year in and year out.
Special teams mistake and a flag. You mentioned Heisman. JT
False
Daniels,
start.
10-1 odds.
Offense, number 73. 5-yard penalty.
I like that.
Remains fourth down.
He's going to have a chance.
Our friends at Caesars by William Hill. To Spencer Rattler, 5-1. Bryce Young, 6-1. Daniels at 10-1, pretty good.
Yeah, again, for JT, though, he's going to need a couple dudes to emerge on the outside, right? I mean, you can't do it all on your own, and with no Pickens, that hurts. Got a couple guys that are going to step up. I mentioned Burton a couple times when he gets healthy, but they need another guy to be a game changer on that side. And another missed field goal, and Black's got an opportunity. Stake is still on the line, boys.
21-10, a savage performance by Red today, an 11-point lead with 4:06 to go. Here's how things shook out in the East last year. Florida 8-2 in conference, 8-4 overall at the end of the day. Georgia, remember, lost the game. Vandy backed out not once but twice.
Is there any doubt that at the end of the year, no one wanted to play Georgia?
No, that's fair.
I mean, and we talk about the playoff and it's the four best teams. Are you telling me that if Alabama had the opportunity to play A&M or Georgia, who they picking? They're picking A&M. I mean, Georgia was one of the best teams, period, at the end of the year. Their defense was elite. Their running game was good, and the missing piece was JT Daniels when he started to get going at the end of the year. That's the year you wanted to see an 8-team playoff, right? That's when you wanted to see a Georgia team that just found their quarterback a few games earlier have an opportunity to go toe-to-toe for a national championship, because I think they were that good at the end of the year.
There's one part of the JT Daniels story that we haven't gotten to. 3.5 minutes left in the scrimmage, and Cole asked him about being ready to play versus being utilized to play. And we had that Kentucky game when he was seemingly ready but didn't play. He asked to be on the scout team, and he was allowed to be on the scout team even though seemingly he wasn't cleared physically to start a game. Cole, what did you think about that portion of the conversation with JT Daniels and his willingness to go run the scout team?
I loved it. I don't even think it was willingness. I think it was desire. I think he wanted to compete. I mean, there's stories about him in 6th grade out in California where his high school coach got to meet with the Pee Wee coach or developmental league coach, whoever it was. And as a 6th grader, he gets up on the whiteboard and they said he was more advanced than the guy that was starting as the varsity quarterback at that time. It just means a lot to him. And I think he probably knew deep down inside, if I'm going to stay ready and if I'm going to be prepared to go play an SEC defense, which defense better than to compete against every day? This is Georgia defense, which was for a long time the best in the country last year.
So, Jordan, why do you think it took him so long to get out there and for Georgia to put him on the field?
Well, I think it was just the injury thing. I think he was sincerely slowed down by that knee. A lot of times when you're not inside the program, especially in COVID, where we didn't get to be at practice and be in meeting rooms as much as we're used to, great bullet throw there by Carson Beck to Darnell Washington. What a throw. But with JT, it wasn't the mental aspect that was slowing him down. He was ready. I truly believe it was the physical. So it'd be great to see him with a full offseason. Went through a handful of quarterbacks or coordinators at USC. Went through a handful of offenses last year as Monken was trying to adapt it to multiple people. And I think it's going to be special this year when it all comes together. And I tell you what, Georgia has found their number 2 quarterback. I've been impressed with Carson Beck today. He's made some big-time throws.
Well, they'll go for 2 here after the catch by Big O. Darnell Washington might be the biggest zero I've ever seen in my life.
I tell you what, Tom, you mentioned some of the players don't care about steak or beanie weenies. These coaches eat whatever dinner as well, so you better believe they all want the steak. So we're going for 2.
We got a throwback to a big fella.
Oh!
And he stopped short of Marius Mims. Top recruit on the offensive line. Just he has earned the honor of continuing to block after that play.
Oh, little sprint right throwback. Great job backside of noticing it. But look at that, the big man. You gotta hold that ball high and tight, son.
This reminds me of when my Zoom call went down against Mississippi State.
Calls, he's not
tried to
dropping
do
that
play-by-play.
Ryan Davis made the tackle on that play.
Cole, did you ever get a throwback? You weren't in that conversation, huh?
No, not playing center. I don't think I was. What's funny about it, though, Alabama actually ran that play. Alabama ran that play to Andre Smith while Kirby was at Alabama. So that's probably where that one came from. But no, nobody was throwing it to me.
But I mean, you didn't ever lobby to like, hey, line me up at tackle one time because you just weren't an athlete. Right?
I lobbied to throw. I lobbied for a center pass. Like I sprint out one way, center drifts the opposite way, throw it back, and then let me throw it deep. I lobbied for that.
JT Daniels still going deep with a 5-point lead, trying to find Mitchell again.
Not sure schematically how you draw that one up, but I will say you got a pretty good arm, so I could see it.
Center eligible, maybe in flag football.
No. It'd be a lateral, and then he can throw it. Look at Kirby listening in there. What are you guys running? Oh, okay.
Cole, there's still a chance for you to go make a play in this one.
I mean, if they let me out there, I could probably sling one or two.
Nearly
a little more
picked.
air under that one.
Great visit with Chris Smith, by the way. That guy's put on some weight. He said to work hard. He changed his diet. He'd been a junk food fiend. He said, I love the spicy chips, the Takis, the hot Cheetos. I had to push those away, continue to put on weight to be able to come down and help out in the run game.
Yeah, he said he got up to about 190. What he played last year in the 180s or so. He's about 195 now. Thinks he can clean that up a little bit, get closer to that 200 pounds. He wants to be able to play in the box, take on running backs. And as long as you can still run, as much weight as you can get.
He said he's gained a lot of confidence since he moved in the starting role after Richard LeCounte's motorcycle accident last Halloween. And you can see guys that play with more confidence. Here's Demetrius Robertson, the veteran, on the outside.
And a great ball here again by JT to get that up and down. Again, not easy to do. You got to throw it with velocity. You got to get it up over an underneath defender in zone coverage and back down. Demetrius Robinson's a guy he's a vet. We mentioned it. Because of COVID, you get the extra year. This is going to be his 6th year playing college football. So he knows where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. He's going to be an important role player next year.
Sixth year wide receiver. There's only 8 NFL wide receivers that have been with their same team for 6 years.
Offense, number 73, 5-yard penalty, first down.
It's just a long time to play college football. College is a grind. I mean, it's fun, yeah, but I was so happy when I was done with school. You kidding me? Could focus on football without school. He's been doing it since 2016? Started his career at Cal before transferring over here to Georgia. It's a lot of practice. It's a lot of camp. Spring's not that fun. Yeah. Camp's not fun. Guess you get to play in a lot of games, man.
Broke Deshaun Jackson's freshman receiving records at Cal. Daniels going deep again. And all along, Demetrius Robertson maybe created some space. He'll take another look, but he'll take it into the end zone. The 6th spring game is the charm.
Had a great job by D-Rob there, shredding a defender, getting off the contact, but even a better job by JT. And this is one of the things that I love about his deep ball. Watch how much air he throws this with. That is a rainbow. And why is that important? Because he had to let that ball go early. If he throws that with less air, he's throwing it to a spot. Robinson maybe doesn't have time to shed the defender, adjust to the football. As you see, he comes back in for the football. But when you throw a deep ball with air, it allows your receiver to make a play, to adjust to it in the air. Watch Robinson adjust back into this football. He's only able to do that because so much air was put on it. One of the reasons why immediately they were able to hit more shots downfield last year with JT in, because the air and how he threw those deep balls.
59-yard hookup. Updated numbers on JT Daniels, 28 of 41 for 324.
Start figuring out, boys. You want it medium, medium well, medium rare, or you want it like Tom, just rare, still bleeding on the plate.
Maybe some Brussels on the side, who knows?
Oh.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard Cole silent when Brussels have been in the conversation.
No, his normal reaction is bring
I'm
two. Carson Beck trying to avoid the Ryan Davis rush.
I have personally been at dinner, and so have you, Tom, where we have ordered no less than 6 Brussels. Bowls of Brussels.
Yes.
6 orders of Brussels. Yes, excuse me. Not just 6 little guys. 6 orders of Brussels. And Cole ate the lion's share of all of it.
Let's not act like this was like some, dog food bowl. I mean, they're bringing a little appetizer bowl. It's not like it was a lot of them.
The only thing more entertaining is going to a tapas bar with Cole and hearing him complain that there's not enough protein. Just keep, sir, I understand these are small plates. Just keep bringing the protein. Thank you. On 2nd and 3, Carson Beck will scramble. Maybe we'll get a chance to join you on the road this year, Cole. We can take it a 5-bar, get you the shrimp app, and you'll be happy.
Can't wait.
Get 3 of them and get that avocado thing too.
That avocado thing. Whatever it is, get it. It was delicious.
Here's Edwards. He hadn't gotten a whole lot of touches in this game. 3 carries.
First charge time out of the half.
Now picks up his 3rd reception of the game.
I'm going to say it again. I think Carson Beck has had a really good day. He's done a couple of things very special. He's identified the defense. There's been some blitzes that have been dialed up. He hasn't panicked under pressure, kept his eyes downfield. He's done a good job of moving on through his progressions and also making plays with his feet outside the pocket. This was one of the main goals for Kirby coming into this game, was figure out who number 2 is. Let's find some consistency there. Let's figure that out going into season, because it's going to be JT's show, but who's going to be behind him? And I think that's Carson Beck.
He's going to unload on this one. Too strong. Trying to find Arian Smith. I know how much you like 2 sport guys. Carson Beck was a perfect game. Preseason underclass All-American, high school as a right-handed pitcher and a first baseman.
And baseball guy. That's why he changes the arm angle so naturally, right? Baseball guys have fluid throwing motions. He's a natural thrower. He's able to change arm angles, which when you got a big, tall, 6'4" quarterback, sometimes that's not the case. But when they have that baseball background, you see that come very easily.
3rd down 5. To the slant. And that's good for a black team first down, and they're letting him play on. Braxton Hicks with the catch. 1:10. They'll stop the clock for a moment to set the chains. Well, Hicks took a lick out there shaking his head after taking a shot. Beck down the seam, incomplete. And time looking for Brock Bowers.
That's a couple times we've seen Bowers stretch the field on those seam routes. It's a hybrid tight end, able to stretch the field. Oh, and yeah, there's a couple guys waiting for that one. That seam throw, it's got to be between 18 and 22 yards. I know that sounds crazy to say, what, a 4-yard window? Every football team I've ever been on, college and the NFL, that's the window you want to hit it in, because that's how you avoid those big hits that we almost saw there.
Oh! And we got
another
a big hit to shut down the day, perhaps. There's Ringo.
Oh, yeah. See, that's there's a young quarterback mistake, right? Cover 2, which means that corner is playing hard outside leverage with eyes on the quarterback, just waiting for something to come to him. That ball has got to be on a back hip to slow the guy completely down or just airmail it over his head. But a great play there by Ringo.
Well, Keely Ringo, one of those guys we're talking about fighting for a cornerback spot with Amir Speed, Jalen Kimber. Mentioned that they'll bring in Tyke Smith from West Virginia. Had a couple picks last year for the Mountaineers, third-team All-American. He'll arrived to campus after finishing up in Morgantown in May. Everybody in a 2-point. Here's a 3rd and 3. And Milton. Oh, somebody saved the speakers and security. Almost knocked his beard off.
So I'll get out of here without an injury, huh? And I mean
everybody.
I mean the tech people on the sidelines too. Yeah, that little gets you.
It's spring for the event staff too. Everybody's got to get their reps in. 12-point deficit. Carson Beck trying to make it a little bit closer in the final minute. They're trying to sneak off a couple more snaps.
Second charge time out of the half. Black team.
Saturdays from now. That doesn't seem that long. September 4th will be here. Georgia and Clemson from Charlotte.
20 Saturdays, that's it?
That's it.
I got to get my golf in.
There's Bowers again.
I'm telling you, keep an eye on him. He's going to be a heck of a player. Maybe this year, maybe in a couple years, but he's taken the most first-team snaps out of anybody, and there it is. It's a great drive. Great drive by Carson Beck. Took what he could. Defense was playing over the top a bunch. So he took the check down, then it started to open up 2 great throws in a row. This one's not over, Tom. Steak or beanie weenies?
You said it so accusatorily. Jalen Johnson with a touchdown catch. You've got golf and other things to keep you busy over the next 20 Saturdays. Cole's got an FCS game next week, but after that, I'm a little bit worried. Cole, how are you going to pass the time until college football starts back up?
We got a couple birthdays coming up. We'll get some film in. Start getting the extra film study a little bit early. We got to dive into these O-lines here in the SEC.
How much film did you watch on Georgia to prep for this spring game?
A little bit too much, to be perfectly honest with you.
Walk us through your film watching schedule. We got JT Daniels. How about you?
All right, here's the difference between JT and myself. I have no schedule. Mine is get it in where you can fit it in. I did go back to every game from last year, and the last 4 games, I may have watched those a few times before this game and realized pretty quickly today that it was completely unnecessary, to be honest.
Cole, are you watching film on the Peloton?
You know, if I could get that thing hooked up, if you could help me get Exos onto my Peloton screen, that would be fantastic. But
the iPad over the top.
I'm not technologically advanced enough to figure that out.
Red team will get the steaks. The black squad suffer through the beanie weenies. JT Daniels, I guess we can count this as 5-0 as Georgia's starting quarterback now. So I'll talk with Devontae Wyatt, had a sack in this one. Let's take a look at what JT Daniels accomplished.
Again, as expected in a spring game, it's a little bit of a slow start, but he showed you everything you wanted to see. The short completions, driving the ball downfield to a couple new names. One of them, A.D. Mitchell, making a couple plays downfield, showed some touch out of the backfield as well. What's going to be interesting is how different does this offense look when the season comes around, right? They didn't show much today. I didn't expect them to do much. Do we see more pistol? Do we see any under the center? Is JT going to be exclusive out of the gun? We know he can push the ball downfield. I'll be interested to see how they use those tight ends, how they use the multiple running backs they have, and what this offensive identity looks like when Monken has a full offseason to prepare for it.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting, and it'll be exciting to see if Georgia, when they get the receivers back and healthy, is able to go full throttle in game 1 of the season against Clemson. They've got an experienced quarterback who was able to do it as a freshman at USC and as a 4-game starter last year for Georgia, where the offense was certainly running at a different level. He's got a headset on, and he will have a chat with Cole right about now.
JT, just tell us how you felt out there today. Another opportunity to compete.
That's what it was. And it was a great day, I think, for everyone. What's up?
He doesn't know we started, JT. We're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Sorry, Claude's got it under control. He's the man. We're good.
Oh, good. Great. I think it was a great day for offense, defense, both teams, really. And this whole spring, I said I've been really proud of how a lot of the guys have competed, especially some of the younger wideouts, some of the younger DBs that ain't played the game yet. You got to see him today. You saw Jalen Kimber. I think he played phenomenal. I think Keely Ringo's coming along really well. I think young guys like A.D. Mitchell and older guys like D-Rob, that got their opportunity and they're taking full advantage of it. I'm just really proud of all our guys in general.
Where do you believe this offense is compared to where it was in the bowl game against Cincinnati?
It's just older. It was funny when we started our first walkthroughs right after the season was over. You look around and everyone that's doing the walkthroughs was started against Cincinnati. So there's a lot of experience up front, a lot of experience in the receiver core, and obviously we lost some of that recently. But just an experienced team all around that's, understanding the shifts and motions more and more, understanding the intricacies of the protections, how to run routes, all the little things that come with experience and time.
Always a quarterback directing traffic, people from coming in there. I like that. Appreciate it very much. Thanks. Congratulations on an excellent day, and I look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you. Go Dogs.
All right, JT Daniels with a solid performance, what you would expect from the leading man, 28 of 41, 324 for 3 touchdowns, including 1 late. And the red team coming out on top of the black, 28-23. Well, Jordan, it's about